Hey everyone, it's Lindsay here, and today's episode of Sew to Grow is all about gathering. That's right, different tips, different techniques of how you can achieve the best gathers at home. Today I'm sharing my top 3 favorite ways so that you can get the perfect gathers. The first way I'm going to show you is the traditional way. The second way I am going to show you is kind of a tricky, sneaky way to gather. And then the third technique I'm going to show you is my favorite, hands down, easy, quickest way to gather. I think you guys are going to really learn a lot today, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so before we actually begin and get to the sewing machine, I wanted to give you a few quick tips for when you're gathering. The first tip is how much length that you're going to need. Generally, my rule of thumb is I take the length of whatever I'm making, whether it's a cushion or a bed skirt, and I multiply that length times 3. So just think, this strip is going to get scrunched up like this, and it's going to be about 1/3 of the size once you're done ruffling. Tip number 2, make sure that you're using really strong polyester thread. The reason I suggest this is because you're going to be pulling on those threads quite a bit, and you don't want them to break on you while you're pulling. So have a nice, good quality thread in your machine, and also have a new needle, because that's going to make a lot of difference as well. Okay, and tip number 3, there are so many different ways that you can gather, and I'm just showing you my top 3 favorite ways. So if you're making a pattern by a different designer and they suggest a different way of gathering, try their method first. You may discover a new way that you love, but today we're going to try my favorite methods, and hopefully between all of that you'll find something that works for you. So the first method that I'm going to show you today is the traditional method of gathering. This is what 99.9% of your patterns are going to call for, and I wanted to make sure that you knew the correct way to do it. The first thing I've done is I have cut my strips to the width that I need. This is about 3 inches wide. You can make your ruffles as wide as you need to. You can also fold them in half and double them up so that they are already hemmed on one side and you can gather on the other side. But today what we're going to do is we're going to leave it flat, because that's probably the easiest method for somebody who's just starting out. Now what I've done is I've taken a ruler and a water-soluble marking pen, and I've marked 2 lines. One line's at 1/8 of an inch, and one line's a little bit further in at 1/4 of an inch. And for you Aussies out there, that would be about 3 millimeters and 6 millimeters. Now let's go get our machine set up and start sewing. The first thing you want to do is set your stitch length all the way up to as high as it will go. So to begin, we're going to sew forward 3 stitches, then we're going to hit the reverse button, we're going to sew back 3 stitches, and then we're going to continue all the way down the rest of the line, and when we get to the end, we are going to leave a long tail and cut. Now we're going to move to our second line. Again, doing a little back stitch at the beginning, so all the way to the very end. And when you get to the end of the strip, leave a long tail and give it a little cut. Now that you've sewn both long lines, what we're going to do next is we're going to gather. So you want to grab the bottom 2 threads, like I'm doing here, and you want to pull and push, pull and push. This is where those little back stitches at the beginning really matter, because that is what's holding everything secure so that we don't just pull out the stitches. This is another reason that we use 2 stitches instead of 1. If we only sewed 1 stitch and we started pulling and pushing and pulling and pushing, I can guarantee you that thread would snap. Take the bottom 2 threads, keep pulling and pushing until your strip is gathered to the exact length that you want. Alright, so that was the traditional method. It's not too difficult, but I think you're going to like technique number 2 a lot more. So the next technique has to do with this little piece of yarn. All you need to do is measure your yarn to the exact length of all of your strips, and then cut that to size. The next thing that you're going to want to do is to go to your machine and set it to a wide zigzag. Put the fabric underneath the machine, and you are going to do a zigzag over the top of the yarn. So zigzag all the way down making sure that the needle actually doesn't go through the yarn, it just goes on either side of it. Once you've sewn all the way down, you're going to grab the end of the yarn. You're going to pull on the yarn gently while pushing down on the fabric. So you're just going to keep pulling and pushing until you've gathered up your fabric as much as you want to gather it. I love using this method, especially if I'm working on fabrics that are a little bit trickier to gather with. So I'm working on a heavier weight fabric that tends to need me to really pull and yank. Then I always whip out the yarn and do my little zigzag. So now, are you guys prepared for my favorite method of gathering? All has to do with this little guy. So this is my gathering foot, and it is so easy to use. All I do is pop it on the machine, change a few settings, and away I go. Perfect gathers every single time. So the first thing you're going to want to do is set your tension to the highest number possible. Mine's on a touch screen, so I just touch until it reaches as high as it will go. Now yours may be a dial that's located next to your threading. Next, you're going to want to take your stitch length and you're going to want to turn that up as high as you can. So go up, 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 up. Now you're going to put the foot on your machine. And most branded machines have this. I have a Husqvarna, but whether you have a Pfaff or Brother or Bernina, they all have their own brands of gathering feet. So you're just going to pop that on your machine, put the foot down, and away you go. Just so straight, and it just gathers it for you. And when you're all done, it's perfect. Alright guys, that just about wraps us up for this episode all about gathering. I hope that you've learned some new skills and new techniques that you can put into good use. Now if you are ruffle crazy as much as I am, I've actually designed a new pattern called Ella's Ruffle Cushion. So you can take all those techniques that you've learned and put them to good use and make something really cute for your home. I hope you guys join me again next time. I actually have a pretty big announcement that I'm going to be making for my birthday. I'm launching a new project, so I hope you stay tuned. Also, make sure that you follow me on Facebook or Instagram at Sew to Grow, because I love to talk to you in here. So until next time, I'll see you soon, and happy sewing.